Hi, all. Hope you're doing well. I've had an amazing day. I am starting a new segment with this channel. Just did this title card real quick for Truth in the Wild. And what this is going to be is random things I find out there in the world that show the truth, that make me smile and give me peace and happiness, knowing that there's good people out there spreading God's word and the reality that never changes despite how Satan obscures things. So this is going to go, this can go any direction. It may be simply art, it may be words, it may be a channel that I start following. But I want to make this a regular thing. Maybe it's weekly, maybe it's monthly, but there's so much out there, and if I can be a conduit for peace and give you an underlying feeling of warmth at the end of the day, and help you to sleep in the way that I want to, and that in the way that I now feel more comfortable knowing these people are out there, and I'm going to be able to sleep better, and I believe my dreams will be stronger and my message will be stronger. Or really, it's Christ's message. We're servants of Christ, so Christ's message will be stronger going forward. Then that's my job, and I want to humble myself more and more every day. And I think there's no better way of doing that than sharing what I found out there and giving credit to the people that have brought me to tears today, and have also given me this deeper strength that there are many good people among us that are willing to speak the truth despite living in a world where it's it seems fashionable to just go along with things, or spread lies, or prop oneself up instead of being humble and a student. So, without further ado, Truth in the Wild. This is the first segment. So, this is about a week ago. There was a post I saw of a guy who went through this giant old tree. And I don't know the age of this tree. I'm not even going to show the tree in this. But someone who commented, I align my thoughts with them. This guy, Danny Warbucks, because I doubt this tree was 1,000 years old. And what we're finding, I believe, looking into the word and whatnot, is all the added years that have been given to us by this outer space fantasy. And this tree looked like it might have been maybe 100, maybe 200 years old max, but claimed to be 1,000 years old. And here, Danny Warbucks here says, 1,000 years old? For those who still believe in space, gravity, and dinosaurs, enjoy your boosters. And he got raked over the coals for this, but you know what? A lot of people liked what he had to say. And I'm happy he said it. I loved what he had to say. And we don't know the exact age of this tree, but putting all this stuff out there that these obvious lies need to be talked about, and they need to be laughed at, because that's what they are. They're laughable. Space is ridiculous. It's so easy to break it down. It doesn't make any sense at all. The vacuum of space. And that's another video, of course. Gravity, we talked about corpulent people, people of all sorts would be picking up things as they walked by. All sorts of it just doesn't make any sense. It's a lie. It's ludicrous, and upon childlike, genuine inquiry, it falls apart. But when it's rammed down your throat, so to speak, or it's all surrounding you, it's easy to just go along with the nonsense and say, well, the world around me confirms this because everyone keeps telling me, instead of, well, no, it makes no sense and here's why. And maybe you stand out, but your inquiry, it often can't be tackled because, well, it's so easy to see that water always finds its level and these things are fallible. And then dinosaurs, of course, it's just nice to see somebody saying this. And then enjoy your boosters. I mean, it's a bit of a negative tint to it, but it's like you're going to go along with vaccines too. You're going to inject yourself with things, metal and adjuvants, when there are obvious herbal remedies out there, and the genesis of vaccines is these herbal remedies. So no, go for herbs, and all this stuff is nonsense to take you away from God's great creation that we're a part of. And I think the more we humble ourselves, the clearer our speech becomes, and the more we live in the Word. So Danny said this, and then a little further down, after he got raked over the coals, right? Like Danny Reed's next is saying, LMAO, right? Stop making our name look bad. Saying like Danny, he's making the name Danny look bad. And then Ardilla Secreta says, tree grow even older than that. Mind blowing, right? Google oldest living tree in the world. So like neither of these people like seem like particularly malevolent, but they're definitely doubting what Danny has to say. And further down, carbon 14, we've talked about that. RFTK Ohio has good videos on carbon 14 hoax. I mean, it's basically just, in my opinion, them making like blinding you with science when there's not really anything behind it. It's just they have the microphone and they're the only ones that have it, and then they're backed up by each other. And it's amazing how many people go along with this stuff. But I think there's quite a few of us out there that we're plainly lied to, and here we are questioning everything. So My Melody Love says, you drop too many facts too soon. Look at the replies. LOL, people losing it. So yeah, I think it's a bit of both. I think you have hand sign throwers, satanic people. And then you also have people that genuinely don't know, and just like they're so ensconced in the outer space world that we're surrounded by. But when you begin to question it, it falls apart at the seams. So then Trip for Soul says, I think people are genuinely interested on what he's really trying to say. Since you appear to agree that he dropped too many facts too soon, would you be care to elaborate? It would be of great help. So My Melody Love says to Trip for Soul, I'll just be honest. A lot of this information wasn't stuff I read one day and then it just clicked. It was years. I mean, I can feel you, My Melody Love. I'm the same way. Years of me digging and finding information and evidence, not to mention it aligns with my Christian beliefs as well. What I'm saying is that no short answer here will be good enough. Are you aware gravity is a theory only? Yeah. Have you been to the dinosaur museum? Not a single dinosaur bone. They use chicken bones. As for space, nobody has left Earth. Buzz Aldrin said it himself. NASA is nothing but lies. If I'm able to, I'll inbox you information a bit later. They make it hard to find certain information online. So yes, obviously these dark people control the narrative. They control, I mean, it's, as we're finding, it's this satanic cult of, in my opinion, Paul, going in and ravaging the New Testament, and we'll get into that in a bit. But it's all out there. It's just you have to dig for it, and that's what's so exciting about it. Is yeah, it'd be nice if this was all just plain and we could all like agree on these basic truths, and we lived in that world where we cared for each other and humbled each other, or humble towards each other, and maybe that world is to come. That's what it really excites me. Is I think if I can be a conduit in creating that world, then I'm the happiest person around. I can't. I feel like we're gonna have, that's heaven. Like what is it? Balance, even heaven. So seeing that was so nice to see from My Melody Love giving Danny the backing him up there, and then Trip for Soul even taking that in. So then I always have to, when I see things like this, I have to go wild with it because I'm right there. So I said, great thoughts, Danny. We live under a firmament, evidenced by Werner von Braun's tombstone referencing it. Rainbows being reflections off the firmament, thunder echoing, the vacuum of space being nonsense. If gravity was real, then corpulent people would be attracting marbles and sticks and small rodents. Gravity is the glue to the BS we were fed and has never made any sense. NASA equals Nasha, which means deception in Hebrew. Gee, who do you think has known about this nonsense all along? It doesn't take critical thinking, just simple child-level questioning to pull out of their baloney matrix. You're on the ground because you're denser than air. Balloons float because they are lighter than air. Air has density and everything works relative to that. Water doesn't curve. There is no curvature. Water is always level. We are surrounded by a big group of plate pretenders who throw gang signs and have duping delight when people believe they're crap. Never forget the George Carlin quote. It's a big club and you're not in it. The people who are in it are liars. No one would believe this stuff if it wasn't rammed down our throats from a young age and reinforced through movies and symbolism everywhere. Ancient Egypt is a bunch of BS art projects too. It's all there to make you doubt truthful texts like the Bible, which has also been modified by the evil people. You know, the ones who don't do any real work and lie for a living. Anti-vax is smart too. No one needs to inject anything into their veins anything into their veins ever. You can use herbs to heal. Big Pharma is satanic. Pharmakia means sorcery in Greek. The real felt world is amazing. It's unfortunate we have to live here with liars, but they have no backbone, and evil undoes itself. So carry on and keep living the truth. So probably a bit long-winded for me, and I think many of my videos, as you know, can be a bit long-winded. But as I get further in this truth and I find there's good people out there that are calling out Masons, calling out the hand signs, calling out people that basically are propping themselves up, people with the long robes, and they have this air to them that they're better than you, and you're just, and I'm like, before I'd be frustrated and angry at them, now I'm like, better than who? Like, you have more money, you live in a palace that feels empty, like it doesn't even, oh, you can use fancier words sometimes, oh, you've propped yourself up with this false sense of security, and look at you, in often cases with these people that are overindulgent, they are corpulent, they are not nice people, and people, don't really like enjoy being around them because they're elitists. So I had to say all these things, and it's just nice to know that people are out there spreading the truth of Christ, and that the seams are breaking, and I think we're realizing heaven on earth. It's just possible, in my opinion. So so then again, there's somebody else on there, this John Photography, who mentioned that Danny was the same guy who said that the sun is 93 million miles away, or said isn't 93 million miles away from the earth, and that's very true. It's in the firmament, and I said 93 is propaganda. The moon and the sun are disks, and I think I want to make an etymology video soon. I keep talking about it. I'm so excited to make it, but it's such a big topic that I'll break that one down too. On discs, how we're living on a disc. It's a solar disc. It's a lunar disc. Moon and sun are disc here and are the same size within the firmament. The Bible tells you so plainly. The sun is not a fireball. It's a light. These things are relative to you and are not giant physical masses. The sun and moon are optical, not physical. The sun is a heat spotlight, and the moon is a cool spotlight. You ever have your car in partial moonshade, moonshine in the winter? The area of moonshade won't get frost, while the area of moonshine will. It's amazing. All outer space fantasy land crap can be undone by the dame moon, which we all see regularly. If we lived on a globe, there would never be dame moon. It would always be on the opposite side of the planet. No, you can't dig a hole through America to China. Australia is not down under. The programming is ridiculous. Danny is a good dude who gets it. So that's the last of what I have to say within this this segment, in terms of my input. Other people are going to fill this segment going forward. It was just this particular Instagram commenting that I had to weigh in on, because it just feels necessary when we're surrounded by people that think it's funny, or even if they don't. It's like, either way, it's the truth that's going to reign. Whether they don't know or they're liars, you just put it out there regardless, right? Because what's the worst that can happen? They block you, or they give you an ad hominem, and then you go away because it's like, well, whatever. Or you just you ignore the ad hominem and move on. It's really not. It doesn't phase you once you truly believe in Christ and you have Him in your heart, and it's pretty amazing. It's done wonderful things for me in my life and given me so much more confidence getting out here. So really what made me cry today, I was searching through YouTube and was having some time with my daughter and my partner on the sofa, all doing our own little things. And I think I was on that 911 channel, Conspiracy 911, and she's great. I can't remember if it's Rebel 911 or something. She's great. I'll have to reference her in the comments. Or sorry, in the the description of the video. And when I was looking at her videos on her calling out people that are seemingly troubled, and she is heavily into exposing the lies within the Bible, and how it's been modified by the scribes and Pharisees, which is what I believe. It seems clear to me. And a lot of that, from her perspective, and mine too, has to do with hiding this idea that we're not supposed to eat flesh. But beyond that, there's the whole Pauline doctrine. And in my experience, talking to my buddy Snow Global, who's well versed on this topic, and then also RFTK Ohio, and going forward, there's too much there. And from my perspective, you can look as simply as the fact that Paul says that women can't speak in the church. That is enough for me. Like that, just that line alone is enough for me to say, dude, like this guy does. I do not agree, and this seems false to me. That doesn't make sense. Christ would not say that. It's not. It doesn't. I mean, when I read that, I was like, nope, immediately, this is wrong, and it didn't sit with me. But I only had Snow Global and RFTK Ohio, and they hadn't, like, in my opinion, like I hadn't, like, it wasn't enough of for me, enough of like a emphasis that Paul was like just wrong and evil. And 911 was saying it, and then I came to these guys today, and their whole Doug and Chad, and their whole mission is to call this out and point out every single point, and they have a website, Jesus Not Paul. They have this YouTube channel, Jesus Not Paul, and how they've been lifelong Christians. And these testimonies, they talk about how, when they're young, they have their faith tested, and ultimately they come around, and Chad especially, he's always been strong in believing in Jesus, but he's definitely examined other denominations, and then Doug as well. But Doug talked about how in his like in his teens and his later youth, he definitely was a little bit more hedonistic, and they're just amazing testimonies. Watch them. I was in tears watching them, because you can tell they're both heartfelt, and they came together around the same time, on this reality that a lot of Paul doesn't make sense, and it kept coming up and just kept coming up. That, like, it was this big confusion within the Bible, and Jesus is so easy to read, whereas Paul is confusing, and he waffles, and their testimonies are phenomenal. One aspect I remember of Chad's is he had his faith tested when he was young, and he didn't know what he was doing with his life. He was drinking, and he didn't feel like his word was spreading in the way that it ought to be, and he didn't feel like he felt like it was pointless, because people weren't listening, and this world was so messed up that he called out to God one night, and he said, either use me or take me. And I just lost it, because it's this it's basically what Jesus did, is what Chad is expressing, is like, you can take me now, Lord, end my life, and because I don't see the purpose, or use me for what you need to get this message across, because it's so profound about Jesus's teachings being more just they're all that matters. The red words is like, it's so powerful, and how Paul, he makes himself into a prophet, and there's time and time again Jesus saying, if someone tells you they saw me out in the desert, and Paul claims to have seen him out in the desert, it's the false Messiah. Paul is essentially the Antichrist, and there's so many people that prop him up, and they have this attitude, this air of Paul being one of the necessary apostles, and how can you deny him if other people acknowledge him? And I think it's so easy to do so when you admit that scribes and Pharisees have edited the Bible. So they've edited it to make Paul seem legitimate, but when you actually read Paul's words, they don't add up. And he tells people to follow him. He tells people to follow those ordained in power, which we know are clowns. So basically, like, I don't know the verbatim verse, I can call that up at some point, but follow those ordained in power by God. So people like, someone like the president of the United States, or whoever's in power on the world stage, is apparently God ordained, and we know that's not the case. We know there's some serious tampering going on, Freemasonry, secret clubs, and so forth. and how Jesus' word is the one king, and us all being equal beneath him makes sense. All equal, I get now. I want to say beneath him, with him, holding his hand makes sense, and humbling ourselves every day. It just it's so obvious to see who the evil ones are, and I believe it's integral, and I think that I've woken up and I believe that we've been born into the cult of Paul, which has led to these pagan traditions and this anti messianic society. And these guys have done so much work, and I'm just barely glimpsing their work today. And I'm just I'm telling you guys now, you gotta check this out. It's really, it brought me to tears. It's amazing, and for me, like, it emboldened me, because it's something that I was sitting on. Like, I felt like, I disagree with Paul. I don't like it, but here you have these guys going emphatically about it and breaking down the points. So please check these guys out. They get a lot of flack, but it's interesting, because whenever you see their comments, it's just ad hominems. They don't really have anything to say about Paul in the positive, because it's Paul's whole thing is like this appeal to authority, and he waffles around so much, and they can explain it better than I can. I'm just offering this lens into this discussion, and I hope we can discuss it more openly, calmly, and without any ad hominem, because I too believe now, and you have even more grounding in this, that Paul is either put in the Bible to help, or to test our reading comprehension, and show just how strong Jesus's words are by comparison, or he was purely put in by the Pharisees, and effectively is the cog in the machine that is the Catholic Church and other satanic denominations. So a lot to talk about there, but I have to acknowledge these guys. I love what they said. So one of the comments on Chad's testimony was from this guy Benjamin Moore, and I think it says everything here. This is another fantastic comparison of Jesus and Paul. So Ben says, "Beautiful testimony, Chad. Thank you. When I was about 10 years old, Dad stopped teaching Paul. One way he illustrated the difference between Jesus and Paul was like this. Jesus said, 'Love your enemies, bless those who curse you, do good to those who hate you, and pray for those who spitefully use you and persecute you, that you may be sons of your Father in heaven. For he makes his sun rise on the evil and on the good, and sets his rain on the just and the unjust.' And how many of us have been unjust before, and have changed our ways and are now just? I think a lot of us have. And it's so common. We go through this period in our teenage years or our young adult years where we're confused and just having all these things like on our plate, like, oh, now I can smoke, now I can drink, and you do things that you don't like, and it's uncomfortable, and you don't feel right, and you want to get back to that childlike innocence, and that truth that is taking every person in the same way, not being overly judgmental, and giving them the benefit of the doubt, and exactly what Jesus said here. Whereas in contrast here in Romans 12:20, Paul said, "Therefore, if your enemy is hungry, feed him. If he is thirsty, give him a drink. For in doing so, you will heap coals of fire on his head." And the imagery there is so telling. You want people to come to go to heaven. You want people to do well. You want people to live in harmony. You want us to, like, maybe we garden together and then we stop and we play music. It's this, and then we go forward and we make a meal together, and it's this symphony of experiences, this nice rhythm that we can maintain because we have such faith in each other, and we're of one love of Christ, in this reality that Christ came here, healed all these people, and was killed because people want power. People are corrupted in the soul, and they can see somebody who's so pure and good and want to smite them and bring them down because they want all the attention, instead of saying, "Oh, wow, isn't it amazing that he healed that person? Wow, can you believe that this person who was blind their whole life can now see?" And being happy about that, and not feeling green with envy that you can't do that yourself, or that God in the flesh is here. I mean, thank God he came and has given us these words. So I think reading that there is just it's so telling. And here Ben ends with, "Wow, I see the difference. God is love. Jesus is love. I think I'll follow Jesus." And with that, I agree. All this channel really is about is being another angle at doing that. I think there's a channel that I found recently through a comment, Noah Hines, and he, I commented with him, or I talked with him a little bit about his video on not being hasty, and I agree with that so much. But he used Paul a lot in his description of not being hasty, and while I think his message was strong, I did tell him that I don't have a lot of faith in Paul because of what I said earlier about him not allowing women in the church. And he said I erred in my doctrine, and I told him I'm going to study more. And then I came around the next day, and here I come to all this. And I'm not saying Noah Hines is necessarily a bad person, but I do think Noah Hines might be interested in looking into this and seeing that, hey, maybe there's something wrong with Paul. Maybe there's a reason people keep bringing up Paul and questioning him, because it is confusing. His word isn't the same as Christ's, and and I don't feel as strongly about it. And yeah, I think it actually is pretty bad, evil. And I think these guys break it down so well, and they're here to, again, take another angle on it and help us out. So please check these guys out, and I hope to be back at you with Truth in the Wild very soon. I have other videos to come with you to come in the meantime, and I feel like I'm getting a lot of love right now, along with some hate, and that's okay. And again, like Jesus said, you got to love your enemies, and yeah, I don't consider them enemies. It's just maybe they're confused and they want attention, or they just, I don't know. I mean, I don't know. But at the end of the day, it's about the fact that the truth never changes, and there's good people all around us. And maybe you got to look a little bit harder if you feel like you're all alone and sad and, in the world and caring about capitalistic fake society. It's all fake, really. If you stop caring about the material, it's like it's all there for you. If you trust in your voice and you accept that you're going to make mistakes, but then you're also going to get better, and your voice is a muscle. And I know I've gotten better with my words. The more and more I make videos, every day gets a little bit better. I look forward to a long life, and I want to maintain this childlike curiosity about the world, and I want to entertain all ideas and keep my channel open as possible. I mean, if they're baseless ad hominems that I get, then yeah, of course I will delete those, because I don't think that's very helpful. But if people come with genuine critiques, I'm going to leave them there, because I think it's important that we get to the truth and we see everything. And I have nothing to hide. And yeah, I'm excited to share more and more with you guys. And yeah, let's keep finding this truth out in the wild and keep sharing what good people are out there, because it's amazing. I feel when you really humble yourself, it's not all about you. It's not all about, oh, I have to stand out and I have to do this perfect. And to give you guys an example, so I talked about recently how I applied for a job and I felt like it was the best interview of my life, but I still haven't heard back from them. And I don't know if I got the job. And I'm actually going to contact them tomorrow and ask politely, hey, did you guys fill the position? I'm just wondering, as you told me that you would get back to me this week. And I have a feeling that they already did, and they're just, not letting me know. But who knows? Maybe they didn't, and they're going to let me know. So I'm going to find out. And whether I get the job or not, my attitude's not changing. And that's the reality is, once you have this attitude that Christ is first, I can really go through anything. I applied to all sorts of jobs. I applied to this one. I applied to things that I don't necessarily agree with, but hey, it's work, and I know there's going to be people there that I can talk to, and if I can help them out, great. That's my essence. That's my core, and that's not changing. So they can pretty much take everything away from me, but I'll always have this core attitude of I want to share love. I believe in these words, and I don't think we can be really taken away from them once we've really taken them into our heart and accepted them, and understood ourselves as this great fabric, great as a part of this great fabric. As I'm a thread within this great fabric of humanity, or people out here and animals that can better the earth. So there's plenty of truth out there in the wild, and I'll talk to you guys soon.